Story 1, The Night I Should Have Listened, submitted by Zari. I had just turned 22 and was backpacking through Southeast Asia. When I got to Malaysia, I met some local friends who told me all about their culture, history, and some urban legends. The Highland Towers in Selangor was one such place they mentioned. It was an abandoned apartment complex that had collapsed back in the 90s, killing over 40 people. Locals say it was a haunted spot, but they also said, if you wanted a real scare, that's the place to be. Call it arrogance or ignorance. I decided I had to see it for myself. I rolled up to the spot on a rented motorbike around 9 p.m. It was dark, like ink in a bottle dark. My phone flashlight did little to penetrate the void. The air was thick with humidity, and the crickets were unusually loud. Or maybe the silence between their chirps was just deafening. I got off my bike and started walking toward where I thought the building would be. I got to the first building, and it was wrecked. The vines crawling up what was left of the walls, rubble everywhere. The place was a real mess. I explored a bit, but besides the discomfort of being in a place where I definitely should not be, I didn't feel much else. I decided to venture a little deeper. It took me about 20 minutes to get to the second building. This one was more intact than the first. I decided to go in and check out a couple of floors. I walked around aimlessly, snapping some pictures on my phone. It was eerie for sure, but still nothing out of the ordinary. I guess I was about to make my way back when I heard it. Footsteps above. I paused, making sure I wasn't just hearing things. No, those were definitely footsteps. Someone or something was walking around the floor above me. I thought maybe some other daredevils were exploring, so I decided to go up and maybe join them, figuring their safety in numbers. When I got to the next floor, it was empty. But here's where things get spooky. I noticed that the footsteps had stopped, replaced by a low whispering, like someone talking to themselves, but real quiet-like. I felt uneasy, but curiosity got the better of me. I decided to find out what was going on. I followed the sound, which seemed to be coming from a room down the hall. When I reached the room, the door was half open, hanging off its hinges. Slowly, I pushed it open. The room was dark, but not empty. A figure stood by the window, back turned to me, whispering something unintelligible. The room smelled foul, like rotten wood mixed with something metallic, like blood. I froze. I wanted to leave, but my feet wouldn't move. The figure then did something I didn't expect. It turned around to face the corner of the room and stopped whispering. That's when I saw it. Its clothing was torn, barely hanging on to its body, and it had no hair, just patches of malted skin on its scalp. It was no ghost, but a person, at least something that used to be one. My fight or flight kicked in. I chose flight. I bolted out of there as fast as I could, but just as I was picking up momentum, I heard a scream. A gut-wrenching, inhuman scream from the creature in that room. It was chilling. Then the sound of pounding feet. It was running, sprinting after me, and by the sound of it, it was faster than I was. As I dashed down the corridor, doors started flinging open around me. Bang, 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 each one in quick succession. I had no idea if more of those things were coming out, but I didn't have the luxury to think about it or look back. My mind was blank. My sole focus was getting out of that place. Just when I felt like the creature was right on my heels, about to snatch me up, I did something crazy. I stopped and turned around. ready to face whatever it was. But there was nothing. The hallway was empty, and the doors had all slammed shut. I was alone. I stood there frozen in a weird mix of terror, relief, and utter disbelief. I couldn't make heads or tails of what just happened. Had my mind played tricks on me? Could fear really conjure such vivid, horrifying experiences? After what felt like ages, I managed to convince myself to move. Each step away from that building felt like a weight lifting off of my shoulders. I reached my bike, and honestly, I can't tell you how the rest of the night went. Story 2: The Trespass at Highland Towers. Submitted by Rose. When I was 18, a couple of friends and I decided to go explore the Highland Towers in Selangor. You know the place. Those buildings that collapsed years ago, and since it was like a magnet for people looking to catch a thrill. Our plan was simple: sneak in, take some photos, maybe find something cool to remember the trip by. We thought we were so edgy. So we waited until it got dark. You know, make it more adventurous and all of that. We parked the car a bit far from the site. Didn't want to get caught. We used our phones for light, but not too much. Didn't want to attract attention. The whole place was a mess. Crumpled walls, graffiti everywhere, debris. Nature had taken over a lot of it. I remember stepping over a broken stairwell and thinking, man, why the hell am I doing this? We reached the tower, and it looked just as ominous as you'd imagine, like a giant broken tooth sticking out of the earth. One of my friends, Sarah, was like, "You sure about this?" But no one wanted to be the one to chicken out. So we kept moving. We found an entrance where the barricade had been moved aside, probably by someone like us. You know, an adventurer. Now here's where things get messed up. We were inside, poking around, when I heard it. A soft tapping sound. At first, I thought it may be just dripping water, or maybe a small animal. But then, the tapping turned into more of a deliberate knock, like someone tapping their fingers impatiently on a table. I remember glancing at Sarah and my other friend, Mark. Both looked as confused as I felt. Mark said, "It's probably just the wind," but we all knew he was grasping at straws. That sound wasn't natural, and it seemed to be coming from one of the rooms further down the hallway. So we followed it. Yeah, stupid, I know, but you don't think straight in situations like that. We went down the hall, and the tapping got louder. Finally, we got to the room, and the sound just stopped, like someone had just hit a mute button or something. I walked into the room, phone light in front of me. Nothing. Just an empty room with debris and more graffiti. Then Mark, who was behind me, whispered, guys." We turned around, and the entrance to the room was now blocked by a pile of debris. Stuff that hadn't been there when we walked in. We didn't hear it move, didn't see anything. 1 minute the doorway was clear, the next it was blocked. I don't know how to explain what I felt. It wasn't like in the movies, where the music swells and your heart pounds. It was just cold reality. We were stuck in this room, and something, someone, had trapped us there. We were scrambling, trying to figure out what to do, when Sarah spotted it. A small opening near the ceiling, a vent or something. She's petite, so she figured she could climb up there and see if it led to another room. She climbed up, flashlight and all, and disappeared into the vent. The moment she was gone, the debris blocking the doorway shifted. It didn't make a sound, but it moved just enough to let us know that whatever had us trapped was still there. It felt like forever, but Sarah eventually came back and said the vent led to another room and she'd made a path for us. We followed her, wiggling through that vent like our lives depended on it. And maybe they did. We ended up in another room, rushed into the hallway, and bolted. We didn't stop until we were out of the tower and back at the car. We drove away, not saying much. What was there to say? We had gotten our thrill all right, but not the kind we were looking for. Story 3: The Forgotten Pool at Mimaland, submitted by Anonymous. Whenever I heard someone mention Mimaland, that abandoned amusement and water park in Selangor, Malaysia, I couldn't help but remember that day. The day I can't forget, no matter how much I want to. I went there with a bunch of friends. We were all just a bunch of thrill seekers, ready to explore the place that was once filled with laughter and joy, but had since turned into this eerie, forgotten land. You might be wondering why a bunch of 20-somethings would want to explore an abandoned park. Curiosity, I guess. Or boredom. Or stupidity. Pick your poison. We jumped the gate and wandered around, taking in the crumbling slides, the graffiti that covered pretty much every wall, and the occasional squatter who found refuge in what was left of the decaying park. Everything seemed more or less what we expected. Creepy, but cool in its own way. That's when I saw it, tucked away in the corner that looked like it had been largely untouched by both time and vandals. A small pool, or maybe it was a large hot tub. I couldn't tell. What caught my eye was how clear the water was, which was weird because everything else in this place looked like it had been falling apart for years. "Hey, check this out," I called to my friends, but they were busy posing for photos in front of a mural of a sad-looking clown. No one heard me, or maybe they chose not to hear me. Either way, I decided to investigate by myself. I walked over and leaned in to get a closer look at the pool. That's when I noticed it, a glimmer under the water, like something metallic. I thought maybe a piece of jewelry or maybe even an old park token. Tempted, I did what any sane person should never do in a creepy abandoned place. I reached in to grab it. The moment my hand touched the water, I felt something. A grip, tight and unyielding, like a vice. It was pulling me in. Panicking, I tried to yell, but no sound came out. I was literally choking on my own fear. Now here's the craziest part. As I was struggling to free myself, I looked down into the water and saw a face. A girl around my age staring back at me, except she wasn't fully there, like she was made of water, part of the pool itself. Her eyes were dark voids that seemed to pull me in deeper. I knew right then that if I didn't get free, I'd end up like her, another forgotten story of Mimaland. Summoning every ounce of strength I had left, I managed to pull myself away, finally breaking free from whatever that grip was. Stumbling back, gasping for air, I fell on the ground. That's when my friends finally noticed something was wrong and ran over. "What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost," they exclaimed. I could only shake my head. How could I explain it? Would they even believe me? We left soon after that, but not before I took one last look at the pool. The water was murky now, as if whatever had been clear and inviting before was now gone. Or maybe it had never been there in the first place.